Okay, so continuing with Tucker Carlson, he released an episode on Twitter. Now, for those of you who didn't hear Tucker Carlson, well, okay, you heard this. Everyone's heard this. He was fired from Fox News, right? There's some drama going on there. Honestly, I'm not that interested in it. Probably won't even report on it. But what he's doing instead now is he has a show on Twitter. Now, this makes a lot of sense because Elon Musk has personally given him his guarantee that he's not going to take it down. And Tucker Carlson says a lot of crazy things that a lot of people don't enjoy. I love it. Most of it I agree with. Some of it I don't. But being on YouTube, there's a high risk that stuff's going to get taken down, unfortunately. Especially, honestly, not even so much from what Tucker says, but from some of the things that, like some of the people that he brings on. He's just very much, I'll talk to anyone, which I super respect. And so for that reason, he is doing it on Twitter because Twitter just has a better free speech policy at this point. Before we move on, though, I want to talk about the title sponsor of this podcast. That's right, it's Gulag America. Today, as you can see, I'm wearing my favorite shirt. Again, it says my pronouns are husband, father, and hero. Whoops, bumped the mic there for a second. I'm not a father yet, so it's just preparing me for when that happens. I do want to say one thing about this shirt, though, really quick. Gulag America is an apparel company, for those of you who didn't know. Gulag America, this shirt that they sent me, I wore camping last week, and so obviously I had to wash it. And I was really curious because I was like, what's going to happen when I wash this shirt? Is it going to stay good? Is it going to get wrinkly? You could tell me. I don't know if it's true. I'm pretty sure it is, though. I'm looking at myself. It looks about exactly the same as when I wore it in the other podcast the other day. And so it turned out really good after washing it, which honestly is a hallmark of a good shirt. The color is very even. It looks very good. I can't think of what it's called. The printing is still just as solid as it was the first time. This is really quality clothing, everyone. It's awesome. Why haven't you bought it yet? Use my code JoshCar10. It's in the link in the description down below at gulagamerica.com for 10% off their apparel. They've got shirts, they've got hoodies, they've got long sleeves for men and women. Awesome shirts for the best patriots. Again, that's JoshCar10 for 10% off at gulagamerica.com. It was a 2.5 hour long episode on Twitter. He had an episode where he just simply interviewed Andrew Tate. Now, Andrew Tate is under house arrest because he was arrested for trafficking or for prostitution of women in Romania. He says he didn't do it. He was in jail with his brother Tristan for a while, and now he's under house arrest. And so that's where Tucker Carlson had to go in order to get the interview. But the numbers were crazy for this. Andrew Tate is very famous. He's very viral. Tucker Carlson is very famous, very viral. So when you stuck them together, it was crazy. Just on Twitter, not the people who reposted it to Instagram or YouTube or Rumble or all these other places. He got 92.3 million views on this video. That's crazy business. And let me just say, this was posted just at the beginning of the weekend, so plenty of time for more views. It will easily surpass 100 million, no question. This is just on Twitter again. Just to give you some context, the Super Bowl this last year got 99 million views. 99 million. He got 92.3. That video was almost as famous as the Super Bowl. That is crazy business. They talked mostly, I want to talk a little bit about what I like about Andrew Tate, what they talked about, and then I'm going to show some clips that kind of show what I don't like about Andrew Tate as much. But first off, they talked a lot about masculinity with Andrew Tate, which I really appreciate. Here's a little clip about that and what they talked about.
If you were a man especially, and this is what I talk about masculine issues. If you're a man who was born and you decide to do exactly as you're told, you're going to end up depressed, in debt, working a job that you hate, with a wife who doesn't respect you, with kids who don't listen to you, in a house you don't own, until she leaves you, and then you contemplate suicide a while, and maybe you might find some purpose towards the end, enough to survive and pay your taxes, and then you're gone.
Okay, so this is a good thing. We need to bring masculinity back. It's in my opinion, it's one of the central problems that is collapsing our society, that's turning woke. When you have men that have duty, and they have ingrained in them, in nature, certain norms and ways they're supposed to act because of not just the culture, but what is inside of us. Even if you take God out of it, it is in our nature with God, then it's way more important. but there are certain duties that make a man masculine. Wokeism and progressivism is trying to strip men of that. It has to. If they can't do that, then they're not going to be able to achieve their agenda. Andrew Tate talks about these things. He talks about how men need to be masculine again. They need to work out. They need to be fathers. They need to be providers. They need to have the capacity for aggression. That's something that Jordan Peterson says a lot. When you have the capacity for aggression, you're actually useful. It works both ways. You need to be able to suppress that at the right moments. You can't just be aggressive. But if you don't have the capacity for it, you're useless. Why would a woman ever want to walk down a street with you if you didn't at least have the capacity for aggression? If you can't protect her, you're not worth having around. A woman is great on her own. But for the most part, if a woman has a man next to her, she's going to be a lot more safe in public than if she were to walk down the street at night by herself. I mean, that's not a controversial opinion. Women don't go out at night by themselves. They might consider it if they had someone who was capable of aggression with them. What Andrew Tate is talking about is bringing this back, and this is absolutely essential. What he's talking about here is that if you become emasculated, your odds of suicide way higher, your odds of going to jail way higher, just the chance that you will be stripped of your purpose in life way higher, and life is going to suck for you. You've heard this expression before. I'm paraphrasing. It's probably not the exact way it's said, but basically strong men create easy times, good times, which create weak men, which create hard times. And then those hard times create strong men again. So we're in this cycle. And I believe I'm optimistic. I think it's a cycle. I think we're going to come around again. No question right now we're in hard times, okay? Those hard times were created by weak men, which is what we're seeing right now. Men that like to dress as women. But luckily, weak or hard times create strong men. And so the hope is that people will start to galvanize behind these masculine traits and they will become strong men in this difficult time. I want to play another clip really quick about what I like about Andrew Tate. It has to do with accountability. Take a look.
Wrong. How can I learn from this? Where is my part to play in this? What did I do? Because my actions are what I have the most control over. I have self-accountability for everything. If a woman doesn't want to sleep with me, I don't sit and say, women are this way, society's that way. I just sit and say, okay, why? What can I change?
Okay, so one of Andrew Tate's big shticks is that he loves accountability. It's huge for him, and I believe, I'm going to talk about this in a second. I don't love Andrew Tate as a person, but this is by far his most noble trait, the thing I like about him most. He just talked about being imprisoned for something that he claims he didn't do. Now, I'm not going to say whether he did it or not, but let's say that, he believes he didn't do it, so we'll go along that line of thought. He even said that he has responsibility and is taking accountability for that too. That is the way to live your life. That's what we should strive for in ourselves, so that we can become better and better. It leads to a better life. It leads to success, and it's what we should demand from our leaders. That is the biggest problem. Honestly, if I could go off of one thing that I would use to choose who I'm voting for, it's do they take responsibility? It's the reason why I can't vote for Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the king of not taking responsibility. He's like a 13-year-old boy. He blows up a dumpster and he tells us it was his friend's fault. Like he won't take responsibility. Vivek Ramaswamy and Ron DeSantis, on the other hand, they at least they're claiming they're going to take responsibility, and they haven't lied to us so far. Perhaps they'll prove me wrong and I won't support them anymore. But this is something that I really love about Andrew Tate and his life. Even though he hasn't gotten there in the way that I think is ethical or what you should do, his life, he's become very successful as a result of taking responsibility for his life, whether it comes to sports, his career in kickboxing, or in business. Now, really quick though, I want to be fair to Andrew Tate. I'm saying what I like about him, but what I would rather people take away is I do not believe that conservatives should be rallying around Andrew Tate. Liz Wheeler, if you don't know who Liz Wheeler is, she's awesome. Look her up. She pointed this out. I'm going to read the tweet that she just tweeted about him. There's been a few. She's been going back and forth. It's a little bit of a long tweet, so bear with me. She said this: "Welcome to all the Andrew Tate bros in my mentions. I see you. Let's get some things straight. It's not just women that Tate seduced. He seduced a lot of you bros too. Here's how. In our culture, it's almost shocking to say that masculinity isn't toxic. It's a gift. True masculine strength allows men to protect, provide, procreate, to be the leader of your family that God intended you to be. Sacrificially loving your wife like God loves us all, shepherding your bride and your children to heaven, that masculine strength begets real respect. Okay, awesome so far. Honestly, I think Andrew Tate would agree with that. This is where she kind of goes off on him. But our culture attacks men. That's bad. I understand the frustration when society tells you you're evil just for being a man, but why follow Tate who leads you away from the man God made you to be? Why listen to a small evil con man who tells you to be a man you must be materialistic, exploit and dominate women, consume pornography, and worship yourself? Just because he's the first person you've heard tell you that men aren't bad, Tate claims people respect him, but they don't. Respect is begot by standing by your principles. Respect is an anarchy where the physically strong dominate everyone else. Strong words from Liz Wheeler. This is the part that I agree with the most and the problem with Andrew Tate. She says, why listen to a man who tells you to be a man, that a man must be materialistic, exploit and dominate women, consume pornography, and worship yourself? Those are the principles that Andrew Tate talks about. He literally became wealthy from OnlyFans, which is a pornography website. He got rich through porn. So conservatives out there, I understand he's talking about a few principles that you really like. And so it's fair to give him credit where credit is due. It's fair to say those principles are awesome, but do not buy into the thing that just because he's being attacked by the left, we have to defend him with everything we have. We do not have an allegiance to Andrew Tate. Conservatives have an allegiance to certain ideas that we know are true and eternal. And if Andrew Tate happens to bring up those certain principles, great, defend them. But do not defend a man who's become rich through pornography and, as Liz Wheeler pointed out, dominates women and says to worship yourself. Look, I understand that OnlyFans is consensual, so I'm not saying that this is like as bad as sex trafficking, which we've talked about in the past. I'm just saying it's not an ethical way to make money. Happiness does not come from money, it comes from duty. This is one thing that Andrew Tate doesn't get right. I mean, if you listen to what he says, he may occasionally say the right thing, but most of the time he's saying that happiness comes from sex and money. That is just not true. Conservatives don't believe that. If you believe that, you're really not a conservative. You're a materialist, a humanist. Those principles are in direct opposition to conservatism. And so don't buy into those things when Andrew Tate says them. Liz Wheeler is absolutely right. It's okay to pick apart certain things that you like, but don't blindly follow them. Again, I talked about this the other day, but somehow on the conservative side or on both, when someone attacks someone, the other side rushes to their defense. It has to be like a either or. You can't have two sides that don't like someone. It's like someone attacks Andrew Tate, the other side's got to come to his defense. Someone attacks Donald Trump, everyone on the right has to defend him. Someone attacks Joe Biden, everyone on the left has to defend Joe Biden, instead of just looking at what happened and deciding, is this legit or is this not legit? Once again, I just don't understand why Andrew Tate would be, we don't want him to become the face of the conservative movement. I think that's really dangerous. There are a lot of people, a lot of independents that will be really turned off from that. And so I encourage all the conservatives to go out there and look at what he's really saying. What he's telling you is to worship humanism and materialism, which are Marxist philosophies at their heart. And so it bewilders me why conservatives would ever support that in the first place. Regardless, though, I appreciate the fact that Tucker Carlson interviewed him. He agreed with a lot of things that Andrew Tate said that I just am not a fan of. And he's talked about Andrew Tate before on the Full Send podcast, and I totally disagreed with him then. I made a video about it. But I appreciate Tucker Carlson and his willingness to interview different people. I plan to do the same on my show.